Durud Barshoma Dustan. To everybody watching, it's a real pleasure to be talking to you today. My name's CHO, the Ontario PC candidate for Willowdale. I've knocked on over 25,000 doors in the last 2 years, and I've spoken with tens of thousands of people, including many of my friends in the Persian community here in Willowdale. And I'm hearing much of the same thing, that life has been a lot harder the last 15 years under the Ontario Liberal government. And yes, we have a lot of challenges in our province with an out-of-control debt, hydro prices that are through the roof, and a quality of life that has really gone down in the last decade and a half. But what they're not talking about on the news and in the leaders' debates is what's happening in our community here. And really the local issues that I'm hearing about the most is that we have huge overcrowding in our schools. I mean, the Yonge Street corridor, just outside our office, those schools are operating at 150% capacity. That means that students are being bussed out of our neighborhood. And when the final bell rings, there's no band practice or sports activities. They gotta hop on that bus to get back home, and that's unacceptable. We're also hearing that people are fed up with the same promises. 15 years we've heard that they're going to fix, the Ontario Liberals have promised to fix the Yonge 401 ramp. We have the longest street in the world in Yonge Street, meeting the busiest highway in North America, and you have a one-lane left turn traffic signal to get on to the 401 East from Yonge Street. It's been studied to death. There are no more studies needed. The money was there, half of it from the City of Toronto, the provincial government, and the Ontario Liberals did not come up with their share. It's time to make the difference there. And the final issue that I'm hearing about, of course, is transit. So many of our hardworking people here in Willowdale, well, they work downtown. And they get on line 1 in the mornings and there's no seat for them. Some of them are actually taking the subway from Shepherd north to Finch and waiting for a couple of cars there when the train switches directions to go downtown. I think that's unacceptable. We need to extend these subways, the natural solution. Let's take Finch all the way up to Richmond Hill. And the Ontario PCs have a plan to upload the subway system so we don't have to have infighting between Toronto and Richmond Hill. We have a plan to raise the funds for this by selling the airspace above the subways. This will fund the train expansion. Those are the main 3 that I've heard from, but of course I'm always listening to other people in the area, and if there are any ideas, we're all ears. Love to hear from you. I mean, the Ontario Liberals are saying, again, after 15 years, that they believe that they've done a good job. But the fact remains that we are the most indebted sub-sovereign nation in the world. What that means is that there is no state or province on this planet that is in bigger debt than Ontario. And to put that into perspective, some people hear that the debt is $312 billion, and it's tough to understand what that actually means. To break it down, it's $5,000 a second on the interest payments alone. Interest payments are now the 3rd largest expenditure at Queen's Park. How are we supposed to be able to do all those great things that we need to be done in this province when you're spending all of your money on basically credit card interest? And you can't run a government that way. You can't run your household that way. And we're also hearing about all these corruptions over the last decade and a half. All of the high-paying jobs are going to the Liberal insiders, people who are government insiders. Take, for example, the CEO of Hydro One. Makes $6.2 million a year. Gave himself a $1.8 million raise this year. I mean, I think it's unacceptable that people are struggling between deciding, well, am I going to pay for heat this month, or am I going to put dinner on my family's table? And here we have the executive getting rich off the backs of taxpayers. I mean, it's this type of a climate of spending and waste and scandal that we really need a change from. And that's why the Ontario PC plan is the only one that makes sense. We're going to look at those inefficiencies in the government and the scandal after scandal. Got to get rid of it. We've got to make sure that the money stays to help the people of Ontario. It's an excellent and fair question, and I believe that it is so possible to find billions in inefficiencies. And let me be very clear, first of all. By efficiencies, we are not talking about cutting a single job to essential services or frontline workers. That is not at all what we're talking about here. We're talking about the fact that we have an Ontario government, a Liberal government, who is not being forthright with the books of this province. Okay, they have deceived the Auditor General. They have deceived the Financial Accountability Officer, and worse, they've deceived the people of Ontario. There are billions of dollars of savings in inefficiencies. You want to just talk about one example. I did mention the hydro one. We're also opening 84 new, or 80 new LINs and hiring 84 new senior vice presidents to manage those. And we don't need bureaucrats. We don't need managers to manage managers. We need doctors and nurses. And I find it very rich that the Ontario Liberals accuse the PCs of they're going to make cuts. Well, I believe actions speak louder than words. And if you look over the last 15 years, it's the Ontario Liberal government that's made the cuts. They've closed 277 schools since 2011. They've cut 1,600 nursing jobs this term alone. It's the cuts coming from the Ontario Liberals because of the mismanagement of funds. There is a way. We can't get the books right now because they're not sharing it with us. But once the Ontario PCs form government, we are going to go line by line by line to make sure that hardworking taxpayer money goes to the investments in the infrastructure that we need to go to job creation and make sure that we make life better for all Ontarians. Well, the PC program that we're talking about have fully costed platform ideas. The NDP has really not thought the finances of this through. They are talking about wild promises, free this, free that, but there is no costed approach to this. It's wonderful. I mean, some of the things they're saying are fantastic, but it's not based in reality, and that is the concern here for us. We need something that is based in financial truth. We have evidence here from the PC party that billions have been wasted. That's what we need to attack. We need to work on the debt, number one, so we can free up the money, stop the interest payments. No longer can it be the third highest expenditure at Queen's Park. And we have to do this in a realistic, phased way, not just by throwing money out at every problem we think we can fix. I mean, I love that question because I went to York Mills Collegiate and right in the neighborhood, and I'm friends with so many wonderful people from the Persian community. My favorite food in the world is sabzi polo mahi. So, I mean, I can't wait for Nowruz every single year, but I have great friends in the Iranian community. And I really believe that we have similar cultures, the Korean community and the Iranian community. We love our families. We work really hard. And you know, my parents immigrated here from South Korea 45 years ago, and I saw them work like crazy. And they all did that they worked that hard to make a better life for me and my siblings. And I remember growing up watching them work the 7-day work week, just like my many Iranian friends in this community. The problem with today is that although that hard work is here, the opportunities are not. Life has become a lot harder under the Ontario Liberal government. We need to make sure that we have those opportunities for the future, that hard work is rewarded. And that's why I decided to run, because it's not just about one community anymore. It's about this wonderful community we live in, which is the most vibrant, diverse community in Canada. It's a perfect microcosm for the rest of our country. And we need to make sure that future generations have those opportunities that my parents did. And that's what we're going to help happen with the Iranian community.